There was a lad on YouTube called Mr. Remington Steele, and many a wargamer across this land said he was the real deal. Now there was a man from the north of England, his name was Andy 2D6. Just like a dwarf rune lord, he lived in a house of bricks. Now Remington Steele's mission in life is to make Andy smile. So you've come on board with Remington's orcs. Yes, and these dwarves are vile, vile, vile.
Folks, welcome. You may have noticed the hat. That's because this isn't just the Andy Rem Show anymore. This is the award-winning Andy Rem Show. Mr. Remington, we won. We did it.
We absolutely won, my friend. 1 year's worth of shows every Tuesday night. Well, nearly 1 year's. And there's been some losers and there's been some other winners. And I feel sorry for the losers because some of them deserve to win some things. And I'll talk about that later. But I'm just happy that I've won something for the first thing in my life. But having said that, they'll probably send you the certificate and you'll get all the glory, just like you get all the money.
Well, to be fair, where would you rather see that certificate hanging? Would you rather have it on my lovely backdrop here so everyone can see it? Or would you like to have it on the wall of your bachelor pad so that when you have the occasional female visitor around, they would have to ask some very awkward questions of you?
This is true. You're comfortable with the wargaming man cave you've got in your house, whereas mine is I can hide it pretty well.
Yeah, I think it'll fit in with the decor nicely here. Now, also, it should be pointed out, even though we won a single award, the rules did prohibit us from taking home the hashtag clean sweep that I was hoping for, unfortunately, since each channel, each show was only allowed to take one award each. So I suppose the love has to be spread around, and it would have been a little bit unfair on everyone else had we just taken all the awards, including Best 9th Age content, which I think we were definitely nailed on for with the sterling work on the 10th and 11th Age.
They should have had a 10th Age and the 11th award for sure.
They should have done. So, before we go any further, because this has been a very juicy week for Age of Sigmar in particular, let's go to the audience and see what was going on in there. Now, there have been a little glitch in the comments. I believe Dialogicals was actually the first one to comment, but everything he said has disappeared at the moment. It occasionally pops back up again. I don't know what's going on with the comments. Before the show goes live, there seems to be a few gremlins in the works. So, the unofficial first comment was Dead Gamer. So, unfortunately, you don't win anything. Then we've got Matthias Matson, TFF Baz, who I believe missed the show live last week but did watch it later on. We've got Craig Bowles, Drunken_Elf, the #1_ in the wargaming community. We've got Plastic Sturgeon. We've got Wargamer Spud. Hello there, Spud. We've got Merc the Tabletop. Never seen that chat before. We've got Master Dwalin. Gloom Dready Gaming, who has put little pictures there that looks like she's about to shoot a pony or something. That's a very strange way to prepare for the show. We've got Dieter, award-winning Dieter. We've got YouTube Newbie. We have got, let's see, who else? The Student Wargamer, first-time viewer. Hello there. We've got Graham Rigg. We've got Andrew Wade. We've got some chump named Remington Steele, telling the audience that he can't sing falsetto quite as well as I can.
True, and hopefully the audience, any new members, will discover this in this show.
Maybe. Then we've got Ross Figure Painting UK. We've got Darth Plagueis 101.
Darth Plagueis.
And Archeos 1861. I hope that's not his year of birth, because he must be some kind of zombie by now, if that's true.
Is it Archeos or is it Archeos?
I don't know.
Is it Archeon or Archeon?
I think we need some kind of confirmation there. So let us know. We've also got Mike Hackstad, 2 A's there, so I'm going to assume that he's some kind of Scandinavian with a name like that. And I think it's time that we go and look at some dwarves. What do you think?
You betcha. You betcha, my friend.
Okay, so we're going to start off with the least exciting dwarf of the week.
And talking of these pictures, Andy, usually there's just 1 or 2 like badly taken pictures from the German white dwarf. But in the last couple of days, it's gone crazy. And there's like a dozen images of the various dwarf variants that have come out. So it's really exciting.
It's gone crazy. But first of all, let's look at this rather disappointing image that was immediately outshone by everything else that popped up. So here you go. Someone went to great pains to do this, to set up this image here by taking their Photoshop skills and trimming out the various bits of this dwarf sprue and putting it together. So you can see that assembled by My Wargame, and I bet they feel a little bit silly because the very next day all those actual images popped out. So yeah, we don't need to dwell too much on that one.
Almost good, right, isn't it? The headpiece isn't right unless you make him headpieceless and like a bold dwarf.
Well, we'd be living in the past if we kept on that image. So this image popped out, and I'm going to, in fact, stop the screen share for a second because I have to show you exactly what my reaction was when this happened. And as soon as I saw it, my actual face went like this.
Which one were you, Andy? Which dwarf were you in that picture?
Well, in this image right here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think one of them looks like me in particular?
Well, if you could be one, which one would you like to be?
I'd probably prefer to be one sitting on top of a giant monster, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, my initial thought was actually the guy in the front with his arms stretched out, but he's probably cannon fodder, to be fair, that guy.
Yeah, he's probably about to get a Chaos Axe to the armpit region, isn't he?
But I like these guys. They're a good. They're a little bit of a nod to the hat to the Marauder dwarves in some of the poses that you see, especially that guy at the front. And had I had more time tonight, I would have taken photographs of my painted Marauder dwarves from the 90s, Troll Slayers and Giant Slayers and so on. But these guys just like trump the old miniatures, in my humble opinion. And if you notice their bases, they're on quite large bases, aren't they?
They are. Those, I think, the kind of Space Marine sized bases that are slightly larger than the usual round bases.
Do you think they're that big, or do you think they're bigger than those Blood Warriors?
No, I think they just have quite a wide stance because they're these wild fighters with big giant weapons. So I think that explains the larger base.
32mm then?
Yeah, it's around about that. And a lot of people have been showing some negativity online towards these. And I think that's rather harsh, don't you?
Oh, no. I mean, I just look, you've actually, when we get into the bonus pictures exclusive to this show and 24 hours before Warhammer Weekly, by the way, sorry, Vince and Thomas, but you'll see there's a lot more variants to these dwarves as well. They're not just dwarves with axes. We've got dwarves with some kind of fire glaives as well. So they're the ones that I take a fancy to.
I think people, though, saw these and immediately went on the offensive criticising them, talking about how silly it is that they wear helmets even though they don't have any armour over the rest of their body. And I would say to that, clearly the helmets are not for armour purposes.
No, they're crest supporters, I would call them. They support the crest because, look, bear in mind, if you're a Troll Slayer, I don't know what these guys are called, Fire Warriors or something, you're going to need a lot of hair gel or pig fat to keep that hair stuck right up. You know, this is the days before Brill Cream of black and white and hairspray. So, look, their hair kept flopping down. So a dwarf engineer invented a nice crest support, which they wear now.
Yeah, it's not like elves who have their magic to keep their hair looking all luxurious and beautiful. The dwarves, to keep that lofty piece of hair in that exact position, that must have been incredibly difficult for the old slayers. So I can understand why they're wearing it. And it's just nice and decorative. And it contains all kinds of symbols on the helmet, which is really the only place they can put symbols other than on the axe head and over their groinal covering, which I'm not sure whether that's actually to protect the groinal region or whether it's just for modesty purposes. But what do you think of them riding on monsters? It's been a really long time since dwarves have had access to any kind of wild beasts.
Well, like never. I mean, there's always been talk about dwarves riding bears, and there's even some miniatures by Skibor or Cyborg Miniatures, however you want to say it, a Polish company, where you can buy rather expensive dwarves on bears, which look great. But yeah, this is the first time, and it looks like they're some kind of giant salamanders.
Yeah, they're definitely, to me, they look very dragon-like without wings.
They look very kind of Chinese, I'd say, Chinese style dragons like. And there's two variants. Maybe the one on the right, you've got kind of a troll slayer like hero, and the one on the left, it looks like to me there's a rune lord sat on top of that lava beast.
It is pretty sweet. And before we move on to the next picture, I'm going to have a look at some of these comments to see what people are saying about it so far. Okay, so Dieter says, those dwarves are great. They look like they wanted to outdo the half-naked Khorne blood reavers. Yeah, we see you're half-naked and we raise you almost completely naked. Definitely. MC1 Game is here, by the way, and Sebastian Blau.
MC1 Game, who is it? I've put out a little shout. I want to donate my half of the award, which, by the way, I probably won't receive anyway. But anyway, the thought counts. So MC1 Gamer, I give you my half for producing fantastic Age of Sigmar content this year. How you didn't win an award, I don't know. Probably because you didn't shamelessly plug yourself every day like Mr. Dieter did.
Yeah, there were a few people that launched quite serious campaigns. I can't say we particularly did much of that ourselves, but frankly, we didn't need to because we were already a guarantee nailed on for an award. So let's see what else we've got here. We've got Dreddy says, when things keep flopping down, there is need for some kind of support indeed. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, Ross Figure Painting has said, how come it's not a mechanical beast? Because that was also a rumor, wasn't it? Some kind of golem or, you know, protector of the old dwarven forges, some kind of golem thing people were rumored about, or some kind of steam-powered weapon. But it's gone au natural with bareback beast riding.
Yeah, I think you have to kind of ignore some of the old way of the dwarves, if you will. There are certain rules that they would have had in their society that don't really apply now, because this is a completely new race spawned from fire or something like that. So you would imagine that if they just happened to live peacefully alongside these giant monsters, that they would happily take them into battle with them. Let's see. Matthias Matson, imagine trying to get the old pig grease to stay in the air with fires all around. Yeah, if you're going to be FyreSlayers, you don't want to be greasing up your hair with anything that could potentially be flammable.
Yeah, I mean, how come the beard isn't flammable? Or maybe it's on fire. I don't know.
What would have been nice, actually, would be if they had helmets that actually had fire coming out the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, not like miners with the candles, just an actual bowl of flame, like those old music performances used to have back in the day.
Now, what I like about these guys is there's plenty of flesh to paint, which is always enjoyable to paint. And it's much quicker to paint than the sort of intricate armor of the Chaos Warriors, which if you want to paint those guys well, it's really hard because there's tons of like gold and red and brass and metal. But it looks like all that kind of detail can be saved just for the dwarf weapons and loincloth. And then you can get down to business with that flesh, you know, the flesh covering most of the body.
It's safe to say they are pretty damn sweet, and we're going to be spending money on them at some point, I imagine.
Yeah, you bet.
A couple more audience members have dropped in. The terrain tutor, Raphael Perry, have turned up, and I think Alberto Cordero has popped in as well. So the audience is swelling, and I think it's time to move on to another image now. This was the first one that popped up, obviously quite delicious. Then we saw this. And you can see there that these guys, I think, are they featured in this picture? I don't think they are they? Or maybe they are at the back there with the bigger axe. So these are the Hearthguard Berserkers. So, pretty sweet. And if you look at their stats, you can see it doesn't sound too amazing just looking at their stats, because they only have a single wound each.
Yeah.
Move 4, pretty standard dwarfly stats. They do have a throwing axe as well.
Now, if you look at
nice.
the throwing axe is 4 to hit, 4 to wound, 1 damage, short range of 8. But if you look at their melee weapons, the one on the top, I think it's like the Berserker axe or something like that, Berserker blood axe. 1 attack, it's 3+ to hit, 3+ to wound. So that's almost like a hero stats right there. And it does 2 damage with a -1 rend. And then you look at the weapon below it, which is the Flame Strike poleaxe, and it's a 3+ to hit and a 4+ to wound, which makes it harder to wound, and only does 1 damage. And you think to yourself, why would you choose that? Well, when you translate the special rules below, you roll a dice if you get a successful wound through, and I believe on a 3+, you get an additional automatic wound because it kind of bursts into flame on impact.
Well, that's not too bad then, is it? Getting mortal wounds through is always a nice treat. And you did send me the translation for this whole thing. So what else came up from that? Because I believe there was something to do with a 6+ save against mortal wounds that can then be improved, wasn't there?
Yeah, it gets improved if there's a Hearthguard hero. I can't remember the name of them, but if there's a hero close by, then they get additional bonuses.
Yes, I think it turns into like a 4+ or 3+ ward save effectively against mortal wounds, which is quite nice.
Now, the thing about Troll Slayers, or Hearthguard Berserkers as they're now called, is that the paint jobs can look very, very similar. You know, just a big shock of red hair and you know, fleshy skin. And there's a danger of that. So it'd be nice to see how people paint them differently. You know, why they don't necessarily have to have red, orange hair, right? I mean,
they don't have to, and we'll come to some in a minute that actually don't have completely orange hair in the images. But these ones certainly do, and it's the traditional Slayer colour. I think they would have come in for some very harsh criticism if all the Slayers had been churned out with pink hair in the images, or something equally ridiculous. So, was there any other special rules that were translated for this?
I don't know. You'd have to bring that up if you've got it. I've saved it on my phone. I can tell you straight away. Hold on a sec. And I've got
wonders of modern technology. And while you're looking for that, I'll just see if any new audience members have dropped in. Yes, in fact, we've got Ready Neddy. We've got Danny Ashby, previous guest on the show. We've got VIP312. Some new names today. Last Dawn 79. Yeah, so people seem to be quite impressed with the dwarves so far. And MC1 Gamer is wondering what we're going to do with the award. Or is it going to get joint custody, or will it have visitation rights? So, yeah, we were talking about that earlier, and we're thinking that it's probably going to end up on my wall, because Mr. Remington probably wouldn't be too proud to hang a Warhammer YouTubers award in his bachelor pad.
They're not my words, they're your words, Andy. I'd kind of like one for posterity's sake, but probably too late. I've not emailed Vince or his team.
Well, if they want to send us one each, that'd be great.
Okay, look, here you go. Here's some rules. Rough translations for the Hearthguard Berserkers. A unit has at least 5 models. The unit leader can add 1 to all wound rolls.
That's good.
That's not an extra attack, is it? Like it usually is.
So that means the Berserker something X, broad X, I think it might say. Something like that would then wound on a 2+, which is quite amazing.
Flipping heck. Some units carry Berserker axes, while some carry flame axes. Some units also carry throwing axes. Every time they receive a mortal wound, roll a d6, and they can ignore that mortal wound on a 6. This result can +2 if the unit is within 10 inches of a FyreSlayer hero. So like you said, Andy, it goes up to 4+ on a mortal wound save. What about a normal wound?
Well, against normal wounds, they do have this 5+ save, which could then be improved with things like if you had an Anvil of Doom in there, you could bump their save up, or if you get them in terrain.
Okay, cool, man. Here we go. And if they carry flame axes, roll a d6 for every model once the normal attacks have been resolved. Okay, so it's not if they get a hit through, it's just every time they attack. Every 3+ grants an additional mortal wound to that target. So that's
right. So that is even better than you originally described it, because they don't even have to cause a wound. It's just whenever they attack, they just get basically that free shot at a mortal wound.
Which is great against something like Archaon. You kind of, you get 5 or 6 guys around this round Archaon, you're almost guaranteed to get a few wounds on him, right?
Yeah, he does have a save against mortal wounds, but it's not that impenetrable. So looking at the 2 weapons, then it'd be interesting to see someone maths that one out with the addition of that rule, because they do look fairly evenly matched, the 2 weapons, don't they?
Yeah, that's a real conundrum, because it's not just with these miniatures. It's a lot of miniatures have this choice of melee weapons where they kind of balance out to the same percentages, but it's whether you want to get those extra wounds on.
It depends what you're facing, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of a long shot to get the more devastating attacks. Or
if you're facing something that has a really amazing armor save, then you want to get the mortal wounds on it, potentially, won't you?
Yes.
If you have something with just a slight armor save, then going with the Berserker axe with its -1 rend would be a good choice with the 2 damage there, because you might be able to deprive them of their save without having to rely on a mortal wound. So that's good. Anything else?
There's some variants I've got here, and I've got some prices for you guys.
Uh-oh.
We look at the variants first?
Well, let's look at the other pictures before we go on to that. But also, you'll notice that down here in the keywords, it's got Dwarf in. So that means that they will be able to hang around with all the other dwarves and benefit from the various abilities that they have. So that'll be nice. Although, one thing that they don't have, it doesn't say dispossessed anywhere. So that means that some of the rules that the current Dwarf War Scrolls have won't work with them. So I imagine when they bring out some more Steamhead Dwarden, they'll probably just use Dwarden as the main keyword and possibly do away with the whole dispossessed thing. We'll see. Moving on.
Ooh.
Look at that guy.
Now this guy is called a FyreSlayer Auric Runemaster.
And he doesn't have a mustache.
He has a kind of Abraham Lincoln style beard as well. He doesn't have the mustache bit.
He does, and that is a strange look for a dwarf. You don't see that in GW dwarves.
No, some people on Facebook have said they don't like this sort of Greco-Roman look to the dwarves, or this sort of centurion helmets. I kind of like them myself.
I think it looks pretty damn cool. And his pose is quite similar to the current runesmith / rune lord that's in plastic.
Yeah, I mean, the thing he's holding looks kind of evil, doesn't it?
It does. You could be forgiven for mistaking them for chaos dwarves if they didn't have them with orange beards. If they'd just done those beards in black, they could look quite evil, couldn't they?
Oh, that's true. I didn't thought of it like that. Yeah, that's true.
So, boom.
Oh, yeah, these are the guys I like.
Now, look at that. It's like a dragon head on the end of the pole with flames coming out the end. Yeah. That is awesome sauce.
They look well good, don't they? Wow. They've even put some tattoos on them, haven't they?
They have, and I like that. I like the fact that the tattoos are actually on the model already. You don't have to freehand them on.
Now, the thing with the paint jobs they've done, you can really see that the arms have been stuck on there, can't you? They've almost got a different tone, especially for the one in the middle. Can you see what I'm saying?
You mean how they look like they're quite broken up into different muscle groups?
Yeah. It's
kind of like the way the ogres look.
Yeah, you got to do a really good blend on them, I suppose, if you want to not have that look. As if it's been like literally stuck on.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be that difficult to paint. Looking at them, because there is detail, but it's not ridiculous amounts of tiny things dangling off them in every single spot on the body.
Yeah, I love these guys. These are like the commando stormtroopers of the dwarves now. They've finally got a force that kind of, you know, is not so defensive, but needs to get into the fray.
And it's about time they had plastic slayers. I mean, how many years have those other ones been around?
A long time, my friend, a long time.
When I first got my dwarf models in the first batch I had, I got some slayers then, and that would have been mid-90s, and they were around before that, certainly.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. Let's see what people are saying.
I mean, Avatars of War do a little pack, a box of Berserker dwarves, which look really good, to be fair. And you get like 20 or 30 of them for about 20 quid, 25 quid. They always look good, but these guys have trumped them all.
TFF Baz says, I'm sorry, I'm not buying these looks. Would like to see dwarves with armor, not like this. Well, I think they are going to do some dwarves in armor at some point, because the current dwarf warriors don't really match up with any of the more recent models.
Well, you've got Iron Breakers, haven't you? You've got
yeah, the Iron Breakers already out there. They look very nice. The Iron Drakes, of course, look amazing. I think these guys would actually go very nicely with them. In an army, they kind of match up with that modern GW feel.
Sure, because the thing about your Iron Drakes is they kind of have to stay still to get the bonus attack, don't they, with their shooting weapon? So
yes,
you could potentially have them sort of protecting your backline while these guys are pushing forward to shoot down specific targets.
Indeed, you could. And I'm sure some people just take a full army of Slayers, but I think the real fun for me will be integrating them with an existing dwarf army. But the problem is, if they're going to redo more of the dwarves, I might end up buying almost an entirely new army, which is not what I intended at all.
I don't think they will, you know, because they're only them you know, dwarves that we talked about covered in armor, Iron Drakes and that. They're only a couple of years old, aren't they?
I think they can easily stick with them and the Hammerers, but some of the others I think will have to go.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else have we got on here? Some people congratulating us on our amazing award, the landslide victory that we achieved.
And the terrain tutor is on board here. He's also won an award, so well done to you, my friend.
Yep, we're award winners throughout the community, but I think, of course, ours was the one greeted with the most joy around the world.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
It was like the special edition Return of the Jedi, when they cut to the scene of all the other planets celebrating at the end. The Death Star's destroyed. So let's see what else we've got here. Dead Gamer, unfortunately, has to leave us for the rest of the night due to work. So that's unfortunate.
Dead tired, I suppose.
Well, if he's got to go to work, then he's got to earn his money so he can buy some of these dwarves, I imagine. Let's see. Okay, moving on to the next image. Bum, bum, bum. Now look at that hairstyle. They've dyed their hair to look like fire, which is a really cool idea, I think.
They almost look like, you know, in the 80s, people that were into bands like The Cure used to wear those tie-dye T-shirts. It's almost like they've done that with their beards.
What do you think those are? Because they have shields as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. They look a bit stiff.
One thing I would point out, if you look at their eyes, they're pure white. So they are some kind of supernatural being, you could say, looking at that. They don't look particularly mortal with pure white eyes, unless they've invented contact lenses or they're just blind.
Now, is it the case where you buy a pack of these guys, and it's either these ones that you make or the ones with the shooty weapons, or is it these guys or the guys with the axes?
I am not entirely sure. I would imagine that
these guys.
If we go back, I would think that the Hearthguard Berserkers can also be made into these guys.
Right.
Because they do look quite similar, apart from the weapon. Their heads and everything look roughly the same. Okay. Whereas, these guys, I'm not sure. I think it may just be the way they're painted with the hair, but they do look different to me.
The next question is, do you get a pack of 10 or do you get a pack of 5?
Some of them you get 5, some of them you get 10. Some of them I think possibly these ones you may get 10 for £35, and some of the others you get 5 for 25, which I imagine are the more substantial ones. I'm not sure if that means these or not.
Well, I've got some prices here. We've got the FyreSlayers Hearthguard, which I don't know which ones they are.
Well, these are the Hearthguard Berserkers.
Right, okay, I'll be them then. You get 5 of those for £25.
Right.
Or €33 or $40. So it's £5 a miniature there.
So which ones do you get 10 for £35?
It describes them as slayers with shorter beards with what looks like shooting weapons, great axes, or some sort of flail halberd. So that's those guys.
Right, so these guys are in the same kit with them.
Right, well, you know, 5's never enough, is it? I'd want 5 of each, or 10 of each. So
yeah,
that's
so these would be like the super elite ones then, maybe, if there's only 5 of them in a box.
Okay, and the next lot are the FyreSlayer Volkite Berserkers, and you get 10 miniatures. So these guys, you get 10.
It could be these guys.
Well, I'm sure it is. 10 for £35 or $60 or €45. Slayers with dual axes or a bladed shield.
Yeah, that'll be them, because you can see it's got
coupled with
spikes on it.
Or a pickaxe.
Right, so these guys are cheaper then.
Yeah. You'll be going for them then, I guess, Andy.
And then we've got some more detail here.
There's the flails, I like them.
Yeah, let's zoom in a bit. And you can see the shields, some nice detail on the weapons, the shield designs. They all just look very, very tasty to me.
I mean, it looks like a hero, doesn't he, really? That guy on the bottom there, I love that one. And I like the dual-coloured crest there at the bottom. I'm into that.
Yeah, I think having the hair in different colours actually looks really cool. If you recall that my Slayer with the large butt cheeks has half of his hair green. And I think it's a nice touch to keep things looking a bit different.
Yeah, and having low numbers means you're going to spend more time painting them and making them look nicer, which is always good. There's nothing more disheartening than painting a great model and looking down and realising you've got another 20 or 30 to paint to make the unit.
Indeed. By the way, you can tell that Age of Sigmar has definitely perked up everybody this week, because we've got about 45 viewers at the moment. So we could be entering another boom period for Age of Sigmar, unless this is just a one-off set of releases.
And speaking about winners and prizes and stuff, perhaps it's time to reveal that all you guys tonight are winners, because you are formally invited to RemCon, which is going to take place later in the year. It's a celebration of AOS. We're going to have some ANS battles at Warhammer World.
And then the very next day, you're also invited to Andy Palooza, which is something very similar.
But that's for the losers, that is.
I think we'll have to discuss that further before we make any choice on that. I think probably the winners will want to come to Andy Palooza.
So that dwarf with the sounding the horn there at the bottom is pretty cool.
It is. And does it look like the horn actually reaches his mouth? I can't see, or is it just holding it up?
I don't know. You probably pose.
Because if you remember that Stormcast guy with the horn or the telescope, and he's like poking himself in the nose with it.
Yeah, it looked a very impractical item, that, really, in battle.
Yeah. And some of this stuff is obviously in English, so people have seen the English White Dwarf, but they couldn't give us the rules directly in English, sadly.
So I'm sure there'll be a book coming out with these guys. You know, maybe not an army book, but it's sort of a book of, with them coming into the story.
There will definitely be some kind of tome, I would imagine, with all the FyreSlayers and some fresh, lovely scenarios for them.
Do you think it would be from the Stormcast Eternals point of view, or do you think they'll just be from these guys' point of view and the Stormcast aren't in it,
Well, I would hope the Stormcast aren't in it, because we need other points of view, but I could just as easily imagine the Stormcast meeting them and telling tales of them. So we'll wait and see on that one, won't we? Now, that pretty much covers all the images, so I'm going to stop the old screen share right there. So, that was quite a visual feast, wasn't it?
It was, Andy. I mean, look, in that you've got a good 2 or 3 weeks worth of releases. I'm sure they'll be pre-ordered this week, or maybe some of them will, and then so next week you can get your hands on it the week after. And then, of course, there'll be another week with the Salamander guys. And then there might be another week with some kind of hero. It's how it usually goes, right?
Probably a hero with the battle tome.
Yeah, and then there'll be a box set. And speaking of box sets, there's some great deals coming. I mean, I was thinking about when we were at Warhammer World about buying. Well, you're trying to get me to buy a box of Seraphon, weren't you? But there's a great deal out now. I think it's for £50. You get the Carnosaur, you get 10 Saurus warriors, and you get what else do you get? You get something else. So you might. I can't remember what else you get, but it seemed like a good deal to me.
They are very good value, and what would interest me would be to find out whether other retailers will have those available at an even lower price. Because with some of the expansion boxes that they've done in the past, like for 40k, you had the base game that had the Dark Angels and the Chaos in it, and then they gave you an expansion box with other units in, and that was actually released as a product, not just a web deal. So other retailers were then able to stock it at an even lower price. You were just saving huge amounts buying it elsewhere.
I mean, guys, for those of you fairly new to Warhammer, Games Workshop never used to do deals, ever. There used to always be a premium product, and you never saw discounts, you never saw sales.
Yeah, for the last 10 or 15 years, all we've done is joke about the fact they don't do deals anymore. Because I remember back in the day when they used to do things like 3 for 2, or buy 3 boxes, get the cheapest one free, right. Things like that. But it's been a really long time since they had anything even approaching a deal.
Yeah, it seems if you're starting out, there's for a smaller investment, you can get yourself an army and get yourself playing, you know.
Right, let's have a look, see what people are saying. People want to come to RemCon and Andy Palooza, apparently. So that'll be good, since it will be a 2-day combined event. However, you will have to pick a side and pick a t-shirt, which will cost a substantial fee, I imagine. Because the platinum memberships, as nice as it is to be swimming in all that cash and have that huge room full of gold coins that I can just dive into and then sprout up somewhere else, like out of a treasure chest, and just, oh, hat fell off. Spray a fountain of gold coins into the air.
Benjamin Powell says, RenCon is for the Slanish sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You betcha. You know, there's only a minimal amount of males there. Most are going to be women there. And the day after is going to be Andy Palooza for, you know, you other cretins out there.
Actual wargaming will take place on that day, I think.
No, this is not true. It's just going to be full-on wargaming fun for all.
It is. And we can theme each day a little bit. So for RemCon, you could pick what the theme of the day is and what kind of scenarios people are going to be playing. And then for Andy Palooza, of course, I'll do the same. We haven't picked a date yet, but if anyone has a month that they would prefer, then let us know. Because we are planning on going down to Warhammer World at some point fairly soon, possibly with Mr. Pezapoo, to try and crush his freshly painted Archaean. Yeah. I think we're going to struggle. It's worth a try, but I think we may end up getting absolutely smushed by that.
You can bring my dwarves and combine with your dwarves.
We certainly could. We might just be able to do it then. The combined might of all those beards. Oliver Charles says Andy Palooza sounds very wholesome.
Wholesome? That sounds like a vegetarian word to me.
That's certainly not what Warhammer World is, nor Andy Palooza, in fact. It's slabs of meat, Bugman's Bar, isn't it? Not quite the refined kind of delicacies that you're used to, certainly. Let's see what else we've got. Ross Figure Painting says, great idea, Rem versus Andy factions. Yeah, so half the people are representing RemCon, half the people representing Andy Palooza, and we have them all do battle, like good against evil.
Because I drive, I could bring all my armies down, and all you'd have to do is turn up, and you can select one of my armies in RemCon and to battle either myself or Andy or anyone else. How about that?
That would certainly be possible.
Now, Archaeos has elaborated on this Seraphon deal, which I got wrong. Yes, it's for €65 or £50. You get a Carnosaur, you get 10 Saurus warriors, and you get 8 Cold One riders. And some people don't like the Cold One riders. I think they're pretty cool. I like them.
Yeah. What do you think about lizard men in general? Because for someone like you who likes to take his time painting, it must be quite a treat to delve into those and do some really ridiculous colour schemes on them.
Yeah, it's just time, mate. I've vowed to the gods that I wouldn't buy any more miniatures until I'd, painted the vast majority of the ones I've got.
And then all these FyreSlayers drop.
Yeah. As such is the way with Games Workshop. You're always one step behind.
You are. Speaking of being one step behind, I'm currently working on these bad boys. Dun, dun, dun. So as you can see, I've done the bases, and then I've started to do the things that support them, the bits of dangly paper.
Yeah, cool, man. Do they have ruins on the paper thing?
They do have some kind of ancient text on there.
Yeah.
So I've got one of those, one of these, which is my converted guy.
What does the lantern do then?
The lantern, I can't actually remember off the top of my head what it does. I haven't looked at the Stormcast War Scrolls that much because I haven't had an army available to use yet.
Yeah,
so I'm going to be looking over that a lot over the next few weeks.
Healed wounds.
Get ready.
It'd be cool, wouldn't it, if it healed up your warriors?
Then I've got these regular guys who aren't quite as impressive, but nice and gold. The next step is obviously a wash over the whole thing, and then I can start the highlighting process, which is always fun.
Those wings look good.
They do, but I think I'm unsure. I think I'm going to do them in white, but we'll have to see how it goes, because I do like my Stormcast to be quite dark. So I'm not sure if I might do something alternative with the wings and maybe make them black or grey, something like that. We shall see.
Well, my hobby in time this week, I went into my cupboard of doom and found a very old box set called Machineries of Destruction. And in it were goblin chariots. And you get 2 metal goblin chariots with a selection of riders and charioteers. So I've nearly finished one of them. And at the time, these were kind of really cool miniatures, but when you compare them to the kind of stuff that's coming out now, I'm like almost thinking, shit, I should have put them on eBay, because they're kind of real vintage, unpainted, new in box. I could probably get £50 for them. You just can't buy these guys anymore. But now I've painted one. It's like probably lost value.
The thing is, why would you part with such wonderful models, though?
I don't know.
I mean, what would you spend that money on? Would it be worth it?
Well, £50, I could buy that Seraphon deal, couldn't I? I mean, like, as we found out, when I took my orcs to your house, I had more than I needed, didn't I? And I've bought even more now. I've bought another bunch of Savage Orcs. I've got another bunch of Black Orcs.
I think those were necessary, though. You've just got a lot of different units, but the individual units weren't really big enough.
Yeah.
By the way, if anyone's wondering why I haven't shaved this week, it's because I'm commemorating the imminent arrival of the Dwarf. So, of course, shaving would be sacrilege in such a time. I think you'll agree, dwarf enthusiasts out there. Even though, technically, my facial hair is generally kind of rugged and manly enough to match up to any dwarf, generally. Just with this little beauty here. I know Mr. Remington's in full agreement.
I was at this... All right, I'm going to sound like an arsehole here, but what is true, I was in Connecticut a couple of months ago at Foxwoods Casino at 2 in the morning at this bar. And because America, you can pretty much get anything you want any time of day in certain places. So it's 2 in the morning, and we ordered loads of food at this real nice bit of the casino. And this haggard girl came down the stairs, and she was wearing like hot pants and like thigh-length boots, and she was completely drunk out of her mind. And she sat there gazing at me. I didn't know quite what to do because I couldn't assess just how drunk she really was. But she goes to me, why do guys think it's cool to grow that bit? And at the time, I had quite a long bit. And she goes, oh, you really ought to shave that off. And then she was sick. And then asked me if I'd like to go to a room with her.
Well, ladies, if you ever want to pick up Mr. Remington, now you know exactly how to do it.
So that was Foxwoods Casino, where you can have all kinds of fun.
What is it with you and women vomiting?
I don't know.
It seems to be a recurring theme over the years.
My ex-girlfriend bought me a box of vomiting trolls as well, so...
Yeah, I did actually snip out that clip from last week's show and put it up as its own video to get people's stories of their fondest wargaming gift memories.
Oh, yeah, I need to check that out. But, yeah, she said, if you come to my room, I'll shave that bit off for you. And then I'll show my appreciation. But it didn't really happen. I think the vomit put me off. And,
I imagine it would.
So I did that thing where instead of talking to someone some more, you just you go, oh, look over there. And then I walked off to the other bar, and she turned around, I wasn't there. So I went off, talked to my friends for a bit to get away. 10 minutes later, I looked round, and this oldie-boldy sort of guy, looked very smart, came and stood there. 5 minutes later, she was going up the stairs with him. So that was my good deed of the day. I made him happy.
Or maybe he's a vomit enthusiast. You never know. But look, people are into all kinds of things. Some people even really love the 40k fluff. I'm sure there are a few of them in the chat right now.
Plastic Surge Sturgeon says, classy bird. And YouTube Newbie says, it was all a dream, Rem. A bad dream. It actually wasn't, but it could have been. If it was a dream, it would have ended a lot better for me, I can tell you that.
Oliver Charles says, Andy's emo Stormcast. It's not a phase, Sigmar. Yeah, they are quite dark and brooding looking, my Stormcast, compared to the standard, really happy blue ones.
Now, Andy, let me tell you about what else I've been doing this week. Because I had a week off, 2 weeks off for Christmas holidays from my school. And I decided to celebrate this. I would download Warhammer End Times Vermin Tide from the Steam store, which is on special offer at £20, reduced from £30. So I decided to play a Warhammer PC game, Vermin Tide. It's almost like what's that classic arcade game where you've got the wizard, you've got the elf, you've got the barbarian, or you've got the Valkyrie?
Gauntlet.
It's kind of like Gauntlet and Doom mixed together.
I've heard it's a lot like Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, I don't know that, but basically you're in the first person, and W's forward and S is back, and so you got left, right, forward, and the right button you've got your attack button, and the right button you can block. Basically, you go around completing these missions in the Warhammer world. You're in this town which has been completely overrun by the Skaven, and each mission you have to accomplish a different thing. And you can play it on your own, and the other characters will be computer-generated bots that really aren't very good, or random people join your game. Or if you've got a lot of friends, you can play all at the same time together, and you kind of have to stick together to win, to get through each mission. And it's a lot of fun. It's really addictive. You pick up trinkets and upgrades and different weapons, and the characters you get a witch hunter whose accent is just like yours, Andy. I think you'll like him. And he's got a rapier, and he's got some pistols as well. You can have a fire wizard, and she's pretty awesome. She's got this sword, and she can also shoot firebolts. You have a Waywatcher elf, who's a really good bowman, and she has like 2 twin swords, which you can also swap out for a double-handed sword, a bit slower but more powerful. You can have a dwarf ranger, and you start off with an axe and a shield, or you get like a blunderbuss as well. Those can be upgraded as well. It can be like a Dwarven pistol, or it can be a giant axe or a giant hammer. Or finally, you get an Empire soldier, whose character I'm using at the minute, and he is awesome. Because you start off with this double-handed hammer, and this guy takes a lot of punishment, but he deals out I come out of each mission always with the most kills because he piles in and he just swipes aside the vermin. And he's also got a blunderbuss. And recently I've upgraded to a repeater gun, an outrider repeater gun. You charge it up and it goes and it shoots a bunch of them. But if you're into Warhammer, this game's awesome because you've got gutter runners, you've got poisoned wind globadiers, you've got assassins, you've got rat ogres. Rat ogres are really hard to kill. And do
you generally run into an awful lot of just your basic Skaven, and then every minute or so a special one will come along that's harder to take down?
Here's the thing: you've got to work as a team, all right. If you go off on your own, you're going to get swarmed by the Skaven slaves and the clan rats, and also you'll also get picked off by pack masters who come at you with a sort of a pole, and it sort of grabs your neck and you can't move, and it will drag you away. And the only way you can get saved is if one of the other players comes and kills him for you.
It sounds exactly like Left 4 Dead to me, but a Warhammer version, which is good because I think between Left 4 Dead 1 and Left 4 Dead 2, I have about a combined 2,500 playing hours.
It's a really good fun. I hope you get on board, Andy. We can have some team ups then.
I'm sure I'll get it at some point.
Yeah, you'll get
in the future.
That'd
be interesting. I wonder if people would like to see us playing that on video.
That'd be great, man. Would you be able to record that?
Yeah, that would certainly be doable. I mean, I don't currently own the game, so that's the slight stumbling block.
Now, my computer, my PC tower was given to me a few years ago, and at the time, it was really good. Now it's not so good, so I have to put my settings on the lowest. And when I first got the game, I made the mistake of putting everything at the highest resolution, highest quality.
It's worth a try just to see how it runs.
Of course, but it was so slow because inevitably players join in the game and it makes it even more slower. So now I've put all my settings to lowest quality, and because the action is so fast paced, it really doesn't matter. You're really just trying to survive. So if you like Space Marine, the game Space Marine, it's kind of like that, but less shooty. It's really good fun.
Merc the Tabletop says it's a reskinned Left 4 Dead. So if that is the case, that would make me very happy indeed, because obviously it's one of my favourite games considering all the time I've put into playing that.
Well, you start with 4 missions, and if you complete those 4 missions, you get extra missions that keep coming up, and extra upgrades and so on. So yeah, all the unique voices for the characters and all the little nuances of so Warhammer, but it's pretty awesome.
Well, we'll certainly have to look into that very soon. Let's see. Well, Raphael Perry would love to play Vermin Tide, but his computer can't handle it, apparently. I'm sure my computer could, even though it's not as fresh and new as it once was. I did get it about 5 or 6 years ago, but it was relatively expensive then, so it still runs most games reasonably.
Now, what I liked about this Vermin Tide thing, it comes up as the Warhammer, the End Times, which almost suggests to me they've kind of sold off that... what do you call it? Is it called the license? What do you call the
IP?
The IP. They've sold off the IP to people, so maybe we'll get different End Times games coming out. It'd be nice to think that.
Well, the old world is certainly living on in computer game form with this, and then Total War Warhammer coming up this year. So that universe is definitely not dead, despite the fact that it may have exploded or imploded. I'm not exactly sure which.
Yeah, the other good thing about it, you can drop in and out of it. So you can go in, have a game for half an hour and leave it. You're not left there playing all night unless you want to.
Yeah, that's one of the good things about Left 4 Dead as well. And if you're just playing through the game and one of your teammates has to quit, because some people can't just play a game for 2 hours, then someone else will just drop in and take their place, so it doesn't ruin the game if someone quits, which is nice.
Yesterday I had a game and some guy had some kind of Battlecom device where you could talk to the other players instead of having to type messages. And it was much more effective like that because he suddenly took control. And he was like, don't go forward, come back, backs against the walls and go left and everything like that. So if you can have that set up, it's even more fun because you interact instantly.
That's the way games are nowadays. Organisation and teamwork wins the day. Let's see what people have been saying. Some people have been defending the 40k and 30k fluff after my offhanded criticism a few moments ago. But I think the Age of Sigmar fluff obviously still has a way to go to be as in-depth as that, but we are really just scratching the surface of the various realms and the races located therein. So where do you think these Dwarden will be fitting in with the current fluff then?
I think if you read the End Times, the dwarf, not the dwarf king, but one of the dwarf heroes gets possessed by the wind of fire. I can't remember the proper name for that, but he kind of goes down in literally a blaze of glory, fighting orcs and skaven and goblins and so on, defending the main hero bunch, who get whisked away by that metal wizard. What's his name? With the mask on.
Metal wizard with the mask on.
Like a human. He's got a mask on. He rides a Pegasus.
Is that that Balthazar dude?
Balthazar has got this sort of super magic spell where he basically transports people over thousands of miles. So to get this spell off, he needs a bit of time, and the dwarves, the remaining dwarves, buy him this time, and they literally blow up. So perhaps what's happened actually was they were not really dead, but the wind of fire has turned them into this new clan. That's my theory anyway. I could be wrong.
Well, if it does say something about them being born of fire, something like that. So if they do contain the essence of like the gods of fire or something, and maybe any beast that breathes fire has something in common with them, so they can't bring themselves to kill it. Who knows? Maybe that's why they're allowed to ride around on those giant lizards now. Yeah.
Do you think the lizards are going to have some kind of fire-breathing weapon?
I would say one of them probably will.
And do you think that when you buy that box, it's going to be like the Troglodon and the Carnosaur, like you can make two different kinds?
Yes, because it did look quite similar, apart from one of them had his claw like that and the other one like that.
Mm.
And the heads were a little bit different. It was mainly the paint job that was the big difference, though. One of them was painted more fiery and one of them was kind of black.
And speaking of variants, do you think Games Workshop are the first company to, when you get box sets, you can either make this kind of model or you can make that kind of model? Which inevitably means if you're a collector, you end up buying two boxes to make the two variants, don't you? Like, for instance, when I bought the Hydra, I ended up building the Charybdis, and I always wish, I wish I'd built the Hydra now. You know what I mean? So you end up, if you're really into an army, you end up buying both, don't you?
Well, there are lots of companies that have models with weapon options, but that's obviously not the same thing. Because it does transform them into two totally different things. It's not just the same guy with different weapons. Like the Hydra and the Charybdis, they do look very, very different. So I'm not sure whether other companies necessarily, maybe they will be very soon, but other companies haven't been as advanced as GW with their design and everything and their technology, so they weren't able to put those together.
Yes, Archaeos has just corrected me. I think it was, I think it's right. Ungrim Ironfist, the king of the Slayers, he became the incarnation of fire.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense then. So, let's see. Dita, AOS can still go so many ways. I was hoping they'd just lay out the overview and style of each realm earlier on, but it makes more sense to release that one at a time. Yes, they've given us quite a lot of info on the Stormcast and what they've been doing with the Khorne and whatnot. They haven't really explored all the realms too much, but it seems like they're really delving straight into the realm of fire with the FyreSlayers now, or the Berserkers. What's the next realm you'd like to see them explore?
I don't know, the other peoples, the lost peoples. I'd like to see some more humans.
So you're not too bothered about which realm it is, as long as it's got some kind of actual human presence there?
Yeah, not Stormcast, but kind of in the first book that came out of the Realm Gate, I think the introduction book, it starts off with just some humans, and they're almost like, primitive men and women just running away from the chaos. It'd be nice to see if there's like the remnants of civilization, and they're kind of like barbarians, loincloth clad and stuff. That'd be kind of cool. But there's a big leap away from the Empire. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, all these new box sets come out. It's like, what are they going to do with the Empire and Britannia? Are they gone? Are they too similar to historical armies and Fluff?
I think they probably are.
Yeah.
Matthias Matson says the Stormcasts are all the same boring person, more or less, and that was in response to Dieter, who said the short stories that aren't from the Stormcast perspective are really nice.
Oh.
Have you read any of those that aren't from the Stormcast point of view?
No. Which one should I get? There's quite a few now, isn't there? There's some Chaos ones, isn't there? I might just download, because they're about £3, aren't they, to download?
If anyone would like to suggest any reading material for those who may want to be delving into the Age of Sigmar fluff without just having a Stormcast perspective, then let us know in the old comments.
Now, Drunken Elf said elves, and there's a big problem with the elves for me. Is that
pointy ears?
Yeah, I collect dark elves, and I've also got wood elves. So, what's going to happen? Are they going to get nullified? Are they going to bring a brand new sort of mergy elf race? I like the 3 different kinds of elves.
Well, here's what I think they should do with them. Forget high elves.
Yeah,
if they merge dark and wood elves together, if you combine dark and wood, what do you get?
Dark wood?
Mahogany.
Okay.
So that's what they should call them.
The mahogany elves.
Yeah, what do you think?
I don't know, they're so different. Like dark elves, you got all the witch elves, haven't you? You've got all the blood, and wood elves are all like foresty, but that's kind of been taken away because you've got the Silverneck army. So yeah, maybe there's just going to be one kind of elf army. I don't know.
Oh, by the way, Wag says that we are Brill, and he is from Leicester apparently.
Oh, really? Is he a fan? Does he want a game?
Well, let's find out a bit more about him first. You want to know he's not like an ex-convict or anything. But you could have a potential opponent there. So Mr. Wag should certainly try to get in touch with Rem and get some games, hopefully. That would be nice, wouldn't it? If you could find someone in your local area so you don't have to drive for 3 hours to find a game.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool, man.
That would be fun indeed. Oliver Charles says he would collect mahogany elves. As long as they look like that woman from the Hunger Games. I don't know what he's talking about.
Haven't you seen the Hunger Games?
I have not.
Really crap. They're really girly. They really are. It was almost like the... I don't know if you saw the kind of... what are them vampire films?
Twilight?
Yeah, they're like Twilight films, but yeah. You end up watching them anyway because it's sort of like a big budget thing, and girls seem to love them but hate all fantasy films. But I don't know, maybe because they've got like female heroines in it. It's fair enough. But
news.
Yeah.
What kind of name is that? Rhinos, Bikes and Stuff says that I would be all over mahogany elves. So if they actually call them that now, I think we're entitled to at least a small percentage of any profits that are generated.
Speaking of elves, why are dark elves in the AOS War Scrolls listed as forces of order? They should be forces of destruction, I think.
Well, in the end times, they all kind of banded together, didn't they, the elves?
Yeah, end times, end schmimes. It's like, it doesn't make sense.
We should have a separate show called End Times Schmen Times.
And what about halflings? Let's get them back into the fluff, man.
I don't know if that's going to be forthcoming.
Everyone loves a nice halfling, right?
Well, I don't know if you ever watched one of my battle reports with Halfling Pete, but there is actually a song that he sings that does make that point, which is something along the lines of everyone loves a halfling, a halfling, a halfling, everyone loves a halfling, do-do-do-do-do.
Even better in falsetto, Andy.
Yeah, I might sing that at the end, actually.
All right, I can do the music for that.
Yeah, I'll have to stretch it out a bit and make it a bit more dramatic. Darth Plagueis 101 says, Games Workshop said the Realm of Beasts will be coming soon. However, I don't think that includes Beastmen, unfortunately, because the rumour was that Beastmen are just disappearing forever.
Well,
when I say forever, the War Scrolls are still there, so you can still play them as they're written, but you wouldn't be able to look forward to any new models or any new rules for them.
yeah, apparently Kings of Boar has a halfling army option.
Yeah, Kings of War does have a halfling army list, which is ready at the moment. So I'm just waiting for Halfling Pete to come around at some point, and then we're going to try that out. Because I think he'll enjoy Kings of War, actually. Because when you're not playing very often, Warhammer 8th was a bit difficult to get your head around if you're only playing a game every year. So hopefully that'll be fun. And there's not really much Halflings can do in Age of Sigmar unless you're just using them as goblins or dwarves.
Is there a war goal for the hot pot catapult?
There is, but it just says use it as an Empire mortar.
Oh, come on.
Which is really disappointing. No one wants to use Halflings as proxies. Halflings have their own unique flavour and character. So I don't think using Goblin rules or Dwarf rules or Empire rules would really suit Halfling players. They like to be unique. That's why they got Halflings in the first place. They don't like to collect the same army as everyone else.
So one point that I made the other week about winners of the Warhammer YouTubers Award is that there's a little bit of a curse going around, but once you win, the shows kind of disappear a bit. I mean, you had Materam, who was a winner last year, and his wife, who was a painting winner, and they both came away from the hobby and came away from YouTubing as well as a result. Reef Beastman has disappeared, just like the Beastmen. The list goes on.
By the way, Warg says that we're putting out great content and both Xmas specials were epic.
They were epic.
He says thanks for the great content, and of course you know the best way that you can support this show is to become a Platinum member.
How do you become a Platinum member, Andy?
You become a Platinum member by getting in touch with us and setting up a highly secret funding process that kind of filters out a certain amount of your money into our Swiss bank account. And then you'll be able to watch the show in 4 times glorious HD, which basically means you can either sit really close to the screen, like so, or you can use a pair of binoculars or a telescope to look at the screen. So you're getting a much higher resolution than all the other peasants out there who are just watching in standard high definition. Which is, it's the past really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, any of you guys that are in the UK, you know, get in touch and see if it's possible to have like a big weekend or, you know, extended weekend meet-up. It'd be really cool, you know.
Yes. Tell us what month you want for RemCon and Andy Palooza, which we'll do the games at Warhammer World, but the only fee I think would be for the T-shirts that we'll have to make for everybody, with the logos of the 2 sides on it to see which one you're representing. So, and that would help cover the costs of those, and it would also get our name out there, because then people will be out there about town when they get home wearing a T-shirt with Andy Palooza on it, with the Andy and Rem Show somewhere at the bottom presumably, and old women would see it and think, that looks quite stylish, I'm going to go and check out that on YouTube when I get home. And it'd double our viewership.
Yeah.
And of course, Mr. Rem may actually, if we do it at a time of year when it's likely not to be raining, if there is such a thing, if there is such a time of year in this country, but if we time it well, then we could have like an outdoor live, like sing-along in the Warhammer World car park or something. That would be quite fun. If you get your guitar, of course I could provide the vocals because I am quite a legend in that respect.
I think it'd be pretty cool if we designed a T-shirt, and a few people suggested this T-shirt. Maybe on the front side it could say RemCon, the big picture of my beautiful face, and on the back it could say Andy Palooza.
I think more likely it would either be 2 different T-shirts or just split down the middle. Because otherwise there would be endless debate about whose face goes on the back and whose goes on the front.
But we'll make up some great merchandise, which will, you know, I'll give out for free, but you'll probably sell yours for Andy Palooza. But RemCon, everything will be free.
Oliver Charles says, finally hitting that old woman demographic you've been trying to corner. Yes, there isn't a single demographic out there that we're not aimed at squarely. So that's one that we could certainly do with. We do hit most of the key demos, don't we? But that's one we haven't particularly managed to grab hold of yet.
Show, out of all the ones, in my opinion, has the most female participation in it. Because I can't think of, you know, obviously Gloom Dreddy has got her own channel. She puts up great videos. But I think on a regular AOS channel or Warhammer Games channel, we have the most female interaction in this. And it's down to your good looks, Andy.
I was thinking the same thing, you know. I'm not sure whether they'll stick around there because the stylish facial hair is kind of obscured by all this silly business to commemorate the dwarves. I
mean, I'm serious. I mean, if you look at channels like Tabletop Minis, if you look at Warhammer Weekly, if you look at Sustainable Centres, if you look at, you know, Malorian's old channel, or if you look at Once Bitten, there's no female correspondence that I've perceived in any of them. So
well, I think we're very diverse on the Andy and Rem Show.
Yeah, now the problem is, Andy, that when next year's awards come round, hopefully we'll still be going, we won't be eligible for the new show award anymore.
Well, the best new series we won't be eligible for, but I would imagine that since Age of Sigmar will have been going longer, they'll have something like best regular series as an award. So we'd either take that, or we'd wrestle the best AOS content from Tabletop Minis, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, for me, how Mitch didn't win an award because his content's were unbelievable input into the community he's had. An interactive community.
Yeah, he definitely put out probably the most useful Age of Sigmar content.
Yeah, I mean, Tabletop Winners won that award because they do high quality AOS battle broadcasting.
Yeah, I think Battle Reports was a separate category though, or at least it should be. Yeah. So I think Mitch certainly should have been in the running for that one, for the best overall content, because of his very informative series, which was only made more informative by our presence in a couple of the videos.
That's right.
So we could have claimed that we were partially responsible for a little bit of that prize as well then, couldn't we? For that award as well.
The Ninth Age just sneaked in the last couple of months, didn't it, really? They didn't really have any kind of presence throughout the year until just before the YouTube awards, which is ironic.
Here's a question for you.
That was a conspiracy to me.
Next year's YouTube awards, will there be a Ninth Age category? Will it last that long?
Well, that's a great question. Will it last that long?
What I think is, I think it'll still be going. I think people will still be playing it, but I think it'll be getting less YouTube attention, most likely, unless they really push it and take it a more professional route. I think if it carries on going the way it is at the moment, I think it won't get as much attention as time goes on.
I think what they should do is a Kickstarter campaign for the Ninth Age, and they should have all their rules and fluff printed out properly with artwork, and try to get their own IP on things.
Because there's enough people in there with enough knowledge, obviously, to put together a rule set. Whether it be great or not, that's not for me to decide.
Well, it would be good because they've had a lot of game time now. They've had a lot of trials, haven't they? Developing all the armies and the rules for them, and it's still being developed. So
yeah, to some extent, they obviously know what they're doing. So if they were to take it in a more professional direction and possibly even eventually get their own armies sculpted for it, then who knows if they want to turn it into a business. That would be an interesting direction that it could go in which case I could see it sticking around longer. But as it is right now, as kind of just a splinter project from Warhammer 8th, I don't see it having momentum.
One thing they could do, if it's more of like it's an intellectual community, and they're not so artistic, maybe they could affiliate themselves with another company that produces models already, like Perry Brothers, you know, Foundry Miniatures. Maybe they could develop a sideline of Ninth Age miniatures.
Well, do you want to hear what MC1 Gamer has to say about this?
What?
It's could be controversial here. I'm sick of Ninth Age being discussed in the same breath as AOS. Enough! Those guys are mostly the butthurt ragers who ripped AOS. Some are classy, but why are people bending over to compare both games?
Let's get MC1 Gamer on now so we can do one of his legendary rants.
I think next week, maybe, if we ask him, and we could do a rant special.
Yeah, but he'll be all calm and collected then.
He won't. He's never calm and collected.
I'm really good at winding him up.
You can wind him up easily, anytime. So, I think someone said if GW popped out a 9th edition, that would scupper them a little bit, and it probably would. And it wouldn't be too much of a stretch if they just put out some of those movement trays, like the Lord of the Rings ones with the round holes in them, and said, here, you can now play Age of Sigmar with ranked up units. It would be very easy for them to do that.
Absolutely. Within a year's time, there could be a sort of a advanced AOS rule set that comes out, which appeases the old 8th edition fans.
Yeah, and because it's called Warhammer Age of Sigmar, as we've discussed before, it can easily turn into Warhammer Age of something else and then become a more advanced game. As time goes on, they keep going through the different ages and building more onto the rules.
Yeah.
It could certainly happen. Apparently James Maybury voted for MC1 Gamer. But apparently 400 people voted on the Warhammer YouTuber Awards.
I heard it was about 1,000.
I don't know where you heard that.
Oh, okay. I just made that up.
Well, maybe if we had 1,000 votes, because some people voted for us multiple times because they believed so strongly.
And there was a couple of categories which didn't appear this year. There was, what happened to the comedy channel? That went.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's have a word.
You were up in a couple of other categories, weren't you, Andy?
Yeah, but sadly, people are only allowed to win one award.
Oh, is that right? What were the other categories?
The other categories we were up for, I think we were in there for Best AOS Content. But even if we won the other two we were nominated for, then we would have only got one. And if we, let's just say for argument's sake, we actually got more votes in all three categories, we may have won by the largest margin in Best New Series, so that's why we got that award. So we don't know the inner workings of exactly what was going on behind the scenes. Only Vince knows that. Only he knows how many awards he's deprived us of with his arbitrary rules system of only allowing each person to claim one award. So I think we should definitely have a word with him for next year there about bringing back some other awards. I think the comedy thing was interesting. And what else were they lacking? Were they lacking like most angry or anything like that?
Yeah, they're definitely lacking some kind of kooky awards, you know.
Yeah, maybe we should do our own kind of funny awards for the community.
Absolutely. We have the worst, you know, the worst channel, or the most appalling miniatures on display channel. You know, just keep the lifeblood of the community going.
I think we certainly could. Let's see. What else, people? VIP 312. Maybe next year, shoot for sexiest hosts. Well, if that was an award, I think, unfortunately, that would be the only one we could win, though, because of the rules. So I'm not sure whether we want that one in there. Because we do want some legitimate awards, not just awards for being, like, sexy beasts.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about that one. Unless he's going to change the rules to allow people to win one legit award and one kind of funny award as well. If it was a separate set of awards, and they gave you a little comedy statue, like a little jester or something, I could get behind that. Let's see. MC1 Gamer is just telling people exactly how he feels in there. He's not pulling any punches in the comments right now.
I love it. Let's read some out, Andy.
Well, let's see. Here we go. Ninth Age is a fan game. Do you compare fan fiction scripts movies with the Hollywood movies? Seriously, they are different levels. I'm sure the 9th Age people wouldn't be too pleased about that, since they perceive Age of Sigmar as something that was barely written at all or tested. So they wouldn't be too pleased there.
Then MC goes on to say, when the 9th Age guys get shelf space at the local game store, they'll say it's a game unto itself. Right now, it's just a community-driven game.
It certainly is.
That was a rubbish New Jersey accent.
You can work on that for next week. Let's see if we've got anyone else with anything insightful that isn't arguing about 9th Age. Scrolling really far up to try and get past all this. Okay, it doesn't look like it. It looks like the comments have degenerated into people arguing about 9th Age now.
And talking about the awards finally, Andy, I think they should have different categories for the painting side of it, not just one.
I think they had one painting and one converting, didn't they?
Yeah, I think they should have more. They should have one that's like a best diorama, best monster, best pan it out a bit.
Yeah, I think with the community expanding,
best unit, best hero.
There are different ways they can take it. They can have like the hobby kind of awards would be a separate awards ceremony with different trophies or certificates, and then you would have like your general kind of tactical video and whatnot awards, and then you would have your funny awards as well.
Let's just remember that most people are in this for the hobby. Most people don't actually get to play the game because it's a small community, and the hobby side of it takes way more time than the playing side of it. So it's a more bigger thing.
It does for most people, definitely. Now, I think with it coming up to an hour and a half,
yeah,
we're just about drawing to a close now. We've had a lot of viewers this week, and I think the number of our viewers is generally tied into whether there was anything new released or leaked for Age of Sigmar that week. So during the slow periods where we just have to talk about other things because there wasn't anything fed to us, no juicy tidbits leaked out of GW or White Dwarf images from Denmark or anything, then the viewership does suffer. So about 46 viewers at the moment, and that's been pretty steady throughout the entire show. It's been fluctuating between about 40 and 50, which is pretty tasty.
Yeah, we want to thank you guys, because without shows producing content for our hobby, then really the hobby is kind of dead. It just belongs to your local community, and the community's been kind of fractured. It's hard to get people in your local community to engage in the hobby on the level that we're doing, on an international level. You know, this show goes out all across the world, and we get people from Canada, from America, from Scandinavia, from Australia, all around Europe. So it's like we've got an international community here, and you're all invited to RemCon and the side event, Andypalooza.
The side event. Oh, by the way, here's a good idea. I'm not sure if next week would be the time. Matthias Matson says we should have a 9th Age versus AOS debate in Jerry Springer style. If someone wants to debate Mitch on the merits of 9th Age, that would actually make for an amazing show, I think. I'm not sure whether we should do that next week, because there might be more dwarf goodness to discuss. But we'll definitely put it into the maybe pile. We'll cook it into the maybe pie, even. So, with that, I think we should probably wrap this up. And you did suggest that I should do some kind of musical performance, and I was thinking maybe something about halflings.
In falsetto.
Yes, the only problem is, of course, that you won't be able to join me on the guitar because it can only handle one person's audio at a time. But I don't think people will mind that too much. I think they already had quite a lot of your instrument earlier on, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to fire up the old screen share of this week's logo, which is, of course, the legendary figures of Gotrek and Felix. Is it Gotrek or is it Gotrek?
I would say Gotrek. Gotrek and Felix.
Because Gotrek, it sounds like some kind of like countryside walking website, doesn't it? Like gotrek.com.
Those heads fit really well on that picture. You look like a punk rocker, don't you?
They do, actually. It was perfect because his face expression underneath there is actually a lot like yours as well. It's very similar. So before we depart, we'll remind the audience, as always, to like the video, and when it's over, refresh the page and leave a permanent comment for a free silver membership. And if you would like a platinum membership, then get in touch with us and we'll see what we can do to facilitate you. So I shall prepare my vocal cords and my lyrically crafted goodness in the deep, dark, neglected catacombs of my mind, and we will say farewell. And here is your musical outro. Everyone loves a halfling, a halfling, a halfling. Everyone loves a halfling, they eat all the pies. Everyone kills a halfling, a halfling, a halfling. Everyone kills a halfling. The chef inevitably dies.
Join us again at RemCon.
And Andy Palooza.